So in the underworld of Virgil, this is the first time that we find a separation between the hell and the paradise concept. It's not just hell. It's not like torture only. He has a big chunk of torture there. People who have suffered or who are suffering because of things they've done. So there's a continuity. But there is also a paradise which is called what? What is the paradise of the Romans called? Les Champs-Élysées. It is the Elysium, or the fields of Elysium, which was their concept of paradise. So if you look today a little bit at France, the city is called Paris, which is the Trojan hero, and the streets are Champs-Élysées, you know. So I think the Greeks are stuck a little bit, the French are stuck a little bit in the mythology of the of the Trojans and of the Romans. So let's look a little bit about this underworld. If you think of the underworld in terms of the story, it is a chapter that on the way to going to Rome, Aeneas is going to go there to visit his father who has meanwhile died. But very cleverly, Virgil uses this book to make a transition between Troy and Rome. You know that Aeneas is supposed to be the founder of the descendants of Rome. But if we look at the dates, the Trojan War in 1200 BC, and the story we are reading now is 1st century BC. So how is he going to cover all that, Virgil, in his story? The best way to do it is to do it in a place which is out of physical space, and that's the underworld. So how does he do that? In comes Aeneas as a Trojan hero. He comes out as a Roman hero. There's a transformation that's going to take place. At the same time, he is showing to us something that it is new for us, that there are souls in the underworld that are ready to be reborn. So the Romans here are thinking of reincarnation, reborn, and the way he looks at it is, in a way, okay, for example, he's talking about Augustus that's going to become a great emperor. But Augustus is ruling now when Virgil is writing. So he's trying to make a bit of propaganda and put him in this. I'm going to show you a little bit the reading so that we can see what we're talking about and understand this concept of this underworld where the fusion is done between past and future. That's the best way that... Is this open?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. You have to go further down, and I think you're okay. Yeah. So, on one hand, there are a lot of things that are common with the Odyssey. For instance, the Sibyl who takes him in as he goes in, carrying the golden bow in his hand, which is supposed to be the way of communicating. On the other hand, we see people from before, as we saw in the Odyssey. We also see another person called Palinurus, who is equivalent to our Elpenor, who was not properly buried. So again, Virgil takes that story about, and he tells him, please, when you go back home, make a ceremony for me so that my soul rests and I am not an erring ghost, around. So there is, again, a lot of this borrowing from the concepts of the Odyssey. But so when he meets his father here, I'm taking this line 760, and he says, when he finished speaking, Anchises led his son and the Sibyl is the guide of and went with him down. So, come now, I shall tell you of the glory that lies in store for the sons of Dardanus, which are the Trojans, for the men of Italian stock, so we're talking about the Trojans and the Italians, who will be our descendants. So Anchises the father, who is a Trojan, He is telling him, come, I want to show you the souls who are going to be born and are not born yet, who are going to be our descendants. So this is where the Italian descendancy of the Trojans is done, yes. Anchises is the father of Aeneas, yeah, whom we met in, as he was running away, he was carrying him on his back, and they went out, okay? So he says, bright spirits that will inherit our name, and I shall reveal to you your own destiny. You remember when Odysseus went to the underworld? Tiresias the prophet told him there that you are not going to die, you're going to go back home, but because Poseidon is angry with you, you're going to be late and so forth. So here his father tells him, let me tell you what is in store for you. So already in book 6, the reader is being prepared for what's going to come, and not probably in the book also. In other words, all the history that is not in the book is now put in the underworld as a destiny that is foretold, like an oracle, you know. So he tells him, that young warrior you see there, so he's seeing ghosts, all in white. They are shadows. He says this is the realm of the shades, you know. The young warrior you see there, leaning on the sword of valor, to him is allotted the place nearest to the light in this grove. This is the first one who's going to be reborn. It looks like a film where you see, you know, babies are coming down from paradise to be born, you know. So he says, you see the one? He's on the gate. He's the first one who's going to go out and be born. Now, who is he?
Isn't he the Trojan one?
Well, he will be called Silvius, an Alban name, and he will be your son, born after your death, after you marry the Italian queen. So he's telling him, you see this soul there? This is your new son, who will be born after you are, you know, after you die. Of course, you probably were there when he was conceived, but you will not probably see him born. You will live long, but he will be born too late for you to know, and your wife Lavinia, whom we shall see now in the next book as the Italian queen, she will, and father and founder of our long dynasty. So this son of yours, who's going to be born, he is going to be the father of the Italian race. So you see what he's doing. Virgil is telling us in this underworld that the Trojan prince now is going to soon become the father of the Italians, because his new children, born not from the Trojan queen Creusa, but from the Italian Lavinia, is going to be the father of the descendants of Rome. And then he says, Silvius Aeneas, and then he goes further down, and he gives him also, now, turn your eyes in this direction and look at this family of yours, your own Romans. So now he's not talking to him about a Trojan prince. He's talking to him about he's a Roman prince. He's a Roman founder, you know. Look at your new dynasty. Here is Caesar. Now, Julius Caesar was already, familiar for the reader. Here is Caesar. And all the sons of Julius, because his son, now his name will change his name, the Trojan one, to Julius. And these are all the men who are going to be born of your new generation. Now, here comes the propaganda part. You remember that Augustus asked Virgil to write this book. So what does he do? Very cleverly, he puts Augustus in the underworld as somebody who's going to be born. And here is Augustus Caesar, son of a god, the man who will bring back the golden years for the fields of Latium once ruled, that this man is going to be the great, because Augustus was the one who made peace for the Romans, Pax Romana, So he's saying, this? He is the next emperor who's going to come, and he's going to be the greatest emperor that you can see. And if you look here, the kingdoms around the Caspian Sea and Lake Mascotis are even now quaking when they hear of his coming. But we know historically that he already occupied them. So he is already preparing history in the underworld. Actually, he's telling us what happened already. But how are we going to breach the gap between Troy and Rome? And he's doing this here. And then he brings other examples. And then he asks him, but is this at a distance resplendent in his crown? Who is this? And carrying holy emblems. I know that white hair and beard. This is the man who will first found our city on laws. The Roman king called from the little town of Cures and the poor. So all the Roman figures now that history has known, we are seeing them in the underworld. This is the man who made the law. Who is this man there? That is Brutus, who is going to kill Julius Caesar. So all of these are now being told ahead of time. And then, all of a sudden, and I would like to mention here that, so Aeneas and the Sibyl went around, and at this Aeneas addressed his father, for he saw marching with Marcellus a young man. Who is that father marching at the side of Marcellus? Is it one of his sons or one of the great line of his descendants? Then his father began to speak through his tears. Oh, my son, do not ask. This is the greatest grief that you and yours will ever suffer. Fate will just show him to the earth, no more. The gods in heaven have judged that the Roman race would become too powerful if this gift were theirs to keep. And then he is telling us all that is going to happen. Yeah, Ala, you are here. We thought you were still stuck in the rain. You're okay? So, all the Roman history that has been lived by the Romans, Virgil is trying to put them as predictions in the underworld. And this is a very clever thing he has done to bridge the gap between the past and the future. Now, who do you think he will see? Now, at the end, there are two gates at the end of this trip in the underworld. One is called the Gate of Horn, and it is an exit for true shades. The other is made all in gleaming white ivory, but through it the powers of the underworld send false dreams and up towards the heavens. There on that night did Anchises walk with his son and with the Sibyl. You have to realize that Aeneas is a living person visiting the underworld. So the laws of the underworld don't apply on him. He is not a person who is stuck there. He has to get out. He has to return back to his... So there are certain things that are different. For example, he's not a shadow. He is physical. And many times when he comes to kiss his father, he cannot grasp him, he cannot clasp him. He just, emerges and it becomes difficult for them to communicate. Now, one of the interesting things that he sees there on line 450, you remember that in book 4, Dido killed herself. I will go back to that book 4 now. And she laid a curse on him. And she said that may there never be peace between the Trojans and the Phoenicians. And we know historically that one of the Phoenicians, who was he who attacked Rome, who attacked the Romans with elephants crossing the Alps? Anybody has any idea? One of the Carthaginians, Hannibal. Hannibal was the Carthaginian prince who crossed the Alps with elephants and attacked Rome. But of course, this has already happened historically. But Virgil again puts it as a curse of Dido. And so now he sees Dido in the underworld. Wandering among them in the great wood was Phoenician Dido, with her wound still fresh. She killed herself, she stabbed herself. She's put the sword in her heart, you know. When the Trojan hero stopped beside her, recognizing her dim form in the darkness, like a man who sees or thinks he has seen the new moon rising, all the metaphors, you know. So, he says, the news they brought me was true, unhappy Dido. They told me that you were dead and you had ended your life with the sword. Alas, alas, was I the cause of your dying? He's asking her, did I swear by the stars, by the gods above, by whatever there is to swear by in the depths of the earth, that it was against my will. What was against my will?
Hercules said?
No, that he left her. And we're going to go back and see. O queen, that I left your shore. It was the stern authority of the commands of the gods that drove me on, as it drives me now through the shades of this dark night in this foul and moldering place. I could not have believed that my leaving would cause you such sorrow. Do not move away. Do not leave my sight. Where are you running from? Fate, again, Fatum, fate has decreed that I shall not speak to you again. With these words, Aeneas, shedding tears, tried to comfort, but grim-faced she kept her eyes upon the ground and did not look at him. So this is the continuation of what happened with Dido in Book 4. Now, I just wanted to zoom a little bit on this underworld so that you understand the visit of Aeneas. There are only parts you are reading in it. The pages are mentioned, so you don't have to go through all the lines. But just remember that in this underworld, not only he is seeing his father, who is the past, and he's seeing some of his friends who died in Troy. For example, he sees the Trojan prince, and he tells him, how did you die? And he says, oh, you know, at the end, Helen turned out to be a Greek, and she helped the Greeks come in and destroy Troy, which is something we never know about in the Iliad and the Odyssey, you know, that she defected back to her family. So we have all the Trojan part, and then we have all the Roman part. So Rome and Troy meet in the underworld, and they start being formed there. Now, let us go back a little bit to what is this Book 4 that Aeneas talks about. By the way, for those who have just come in, next Tuesday we meet at the museum, at the AUB Museum. Don't come to class. Go directly there. The museum is at the medical gate, you know, as you know there. And be there. We will only take the class hour, not more. It might be a little bit, because they have, you know that this year is the 100th anniversary of Gibran Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. The Prophet was written in 1923, and they're celebrating this year the 100th anniversary. So the museum has an exhibition on Gibran that will start in the afternoon on Tuesday. So they will be still arranging a little bit, but I asked the curator, she said, it's no problem, you can still go around. I said, I don't want to delay it to the 30th because it's our last class. We would like to meet here on the 30th. So we will still go and see whatever we see from the museum is good for us. And then we will have our last class. So please just remember, I will send on the group a reminder that you come on the, has anybody been to the museum here? No? You have been, yes. But I will take you through our course perspective. You know, we will stop through the sort of stations that are important to us, you know, that are, because otherwise it will take the whole day to go there. Okay. No, it's not that big, but there are so many things, you know, yeah. There is also a second floor, and there are coins on the second floor. So we can see some Roman coins. We can see some of the coins of Beirut, which was called Berytus during the Roman times. We can see some of the Greek coins, some of the Greek pottery with scenes from the Odyssey and the Iliad on them. So it would be nice for us to get a, you know, culture and civilization is a little bit more than just reading texts and discussing in class. In the past, we had more chances like going to live theaters. We will be very lucky if we had Oedipus the King, performed. At some point it was performed. We had Antigone at some time. The Epic of Gilgamesh was made a play. So it would be nice to have these visual things added. It would be perfect if we could take a trip and go to Greece. Some people do that, Some universities have the living Odyssey. They start from Ithaca and they take a boat and they follow Odysseus's. I won't tell you how much it costs.
No, please tell us.
Well, I think it's one of those, elite courses at universities. No, I think it's just done that, you follow him to the Cyclops Island, to Calypso. Calypso is supposed to be in Malta, and the lotus eaters are next to Carthage in northern Tunis, North Africa. So you follow that, you go around. It takes, time. And every time you reach one of those places, you read the text. These are clever ways. For example, if you take the last year, it was the 800th anniversary of Dante, or this year, I think, or last year. So what did the Italians do? They took the whole Divine Comedy, which is 100 chapters, and they made them into television episodes. So every night, somebody would read the one chapter and then act or perform or explain it. So by the end of 3 months, all the Italians had read the Divine Comedy. Imagine if we do this with one of our texts, and have, I think that people are more now visual rather than, it would be nice to have some of these on rap music maybe, and maybe you will listen to them much better. Okay. Can anyone remind us what is book 4 of the Aeneid? Okay, let us start by what is the Aeneid? How does it start? What is the first, the ones who presented it, what's the first book of the Aeneid? Who did it? Who made the presentation? Yeah, can you remember? Who is Aeneas, first of all?
Aeneas is a prince,
Uh,
son of Anchises.
okay, and who is, what is his, where does he come from?
Comes from Troy.
From Troy. Okay. He comes from Troy, and is he the son of King Priam, the Trojan prince, the Trojan king?
Anchises is his father.
Okay, so who is he? How is he related to the Trojan family? He is married to the daughter of the Trojan king. He is the son-in-law of the family, okay? He is Creusa's husband, and therefore he is the only, and he has a child, so his child is the descendant of the Trojans, the only probably one remaining to continue the Trojan race. But Troy has fallen. Troy has disappeared. And Virgil wants us to continue the Trojan race and make it become the Italians. So when the Italians say, what is our origin? They have a glorious past. They come from the Trojans. How much historically it is true, we're not sure. But this is how he did this connection. And then he says, from the descendants of Aeneas, there are the twins Remus and Romulus, who are the ones who founded the city of Rome. So Rome is going to be the continuation of Troy. But at the very end, you remember that Juno was a great enemy of the Trojans. And at the end, when there is pax, there is peace, the gods meet. In the Odyssey, the gods meet at the beginning and decide that they should put an end to the suffering of Odysseus. Here they meet at the end and they decide no more war.
Because there should be peace in heavens before.
And they should decide that there will be no more, because we want now a meeting in heaven so that there will be no more war on earth. So yeah. Well, you remember that Aeneas, when they came, they started fighting the local Italians, the local Latins who were there. When Aeneas entered, you haven't read the last books. When Aeneas, how did the last 6 books of the Aeneid is about the war in Latium. Latium is Italy. Aeneas reaches Italy. The gods tell him, you have a new wife there, you have to marry her. Okay, there is Lavinia, who is the daughter of the king Latinus. So he comes to Italy, and this is one of the very main concepts of imperialism, if you want. They come to a land, they think there is no one. Actually, there are people living there. You know, there are people who are the natives. And yet, destiny is that you should go and marry Princess Lavinia, the daughter, so that you start the Italian race. But Lavinia has a fiancé, and his name is Turnus. So imagine this, you come as a newcomer from outside, a stranger, you want to marry the local daughter of the king, who has already a fiancé, and the only way that you can get her is to start a war. And they will be fighting, and Turnus is killed at the end, you know. And Lavinia is then marrying Aeneas, and she will have this new baby that his father predicted in the underworld, you know. So this is the Italian, so there is the last 6 books are books of war.
Do we know the reason of how he died?
Most probably without any kind of long age or whatever, you know, as it happened with Odysseus, you know. But it is interesting that so how does this book start? The book starts with, we are in Troy. Okay, first of all, the book starts as usual, and let me go back to our
So the gods forced Aeneas to marry Lavinia?
the gods forced Aeneas to leave Dido and told him that you are going to be the new founder of Rome. So destiny is the thing that is guiding him all through. Destiny is the one that is, let me just, okay. Let's go to the presentation of the, we have to open the Roman civilization. By the way, I have my presentation, Roman civilization. In it is Lucretius, and in it is Virgil. So don't look at separate ones. It is one PowerPoint which includes the Roman civilization, Lucretius, and Virgil. They're all together. So this is where it is. Okay, so if you look here, where is the Introduction to Roman Civilization? This is the one. So if you look here, you have at the very beginning about the Roman civilization, and then we have Lucretius, and then we have Virgil. They're all one after the other. Okay, so if we look here about the summary of the story, the book 1 starts with Aeneas and the Trojans reaching Italy. So again, like the plot of the Odyssey, we are going to have the story told in flashback. So the now is, we are in Italy. They have reached the shores of Italy, and there's a king there. His name is Latinus, probably the Latin name, you know. His daughter is Lavinia. He sits there and tells them the story backwards. How the fall of Troy took place, how the Greeks cheated them with the Trojan horse, how the horse was filled with soldiers, and how they killed everybody, and how they had to run away in the evening, and what happened to his wife who was killed on the way. So all the story in book 2 and 3 is the fall of Troy and the running away from Troy. Now, as they are continuing, and he's still telling the story, they reach North Africa to a place called Carthage. And this is book 4. Now, in this book 4, we have a new city being built, Carthage. We have a queen who is ruling there. Her name is Dido, or Elisar. And she has run away from Phoenicia because her brother wanted to kill her. And she, with her people, have come to settle in this place and start a new city. So this is the setting of Carthage. Here comes a prince running away from Troy, no wife, a child, perfect, combination. He has lost his home, she has lost her home, she is building a new city, he is looking for a new city. Young man, handsome hero, young woman, beautiful queen. So Juno, the goddess of marriage, and Venus, the goddess of love, start plotting to make a kind of a matchmaking. Juno wants Aeneas to stay in Troy, in Carthage, and not go to Rome. She doesn't want the Trojans to start the Roman line. So she makes everything to make him stay there. Whereas Venus is very much, the loving mother of Aeneas, who wants love, passion, and so forth. So what's going to happen here is that they're gradually going to start falling in love. And he helps her with the city construction. She helps him with dealing with his trauma of the past, And she thinks that this could be a perfect combination. Unfortunately, the gods think otherwise. The gods think that you should go and found the city of Rome. So this is book 4. Yes.
What happens to Aeneas' son and father?
Who?
Yeah.
Aeneas' son is with him.
And his father.
Father dies on the way. He sees him in the underworld.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's an old man and who couldn't take very much. Okay.
So there's also this concept of staying away from destiny, like by them trying to keep him in.
Now, if you read book 4, you find that Virgil is very much attacking Dido as being a kind of an Epicurean queen, that she's following her passion, make love not war, be today, very much these non-dutiful. And when Aeneas acts like that, he is condemned. So book 4 is a little bit a criticism of what is duty. One of the main things that we talk about in Aeneas is his concept of duty. Duty to the country, duty to the gods, duty to the family. So if you look here, I'm going to go into okay. Look at her description that look, on page 73, there comes, Dido. She was wearing a Sidonian cloak with an embroidered hem. What is this Sidonian cloak? From where? From Sidon. Because Phoenicia, for them, Sidon Tyre was all, and Sidonian cloak is the name given to any kind of cloth that is the color of Urjuan or crimson. That is the Phoenician color. The original, we will see this when you go to the museum, the murex shell, and how the powder in it, if you boil it, you get this pink, red color, like you do Easter eggs, and then you put the clothes in them, the wool in them. The more intense it is, the more the color will be maybe your color a little bit as your blouse, maybe a little bit more. This was even in the Odyssey. We have a story about Odysseus. Somebody saw him in Sidon wearing a Sidonian cloak as that. So this is very indicative of the brand of the Phoenicians. And I want to tell you why. The word Phoenician is the Greek word given to the people of the area, Phoenikos. Phoenikos means red color or crimson color. It's not the phoenix. The original word for that is Kinanu, which some people think it's Canaan, the Canaanites. That this was the original word for this kind of color. So the Canaanites or the Kinanu, when they asked them what is it, and they told them, the Greeks said Phoenikos. So Phoenician and Canaanite are one and the same. They are the same words. One is in local Semitic language. The other is in the Greek word. So whenever you find this reference to, they are always referring to what would a woman carry with her when she leaves her home running away from Phoenicia? Her clothes, which are locally made by the color. This was the signet of the Phoenicians, the brand. Anytime you see anything referred to about this Phoenician culture is usually the color of the thread. Unfortunately, the Murex shell has become extinct. It doesn't exist anymore. If you go to Tyre today and you go and fish in the sea, you may find tires or bottles or furniture, but you will not find the Murex shell. The Murex shell is unfortunate. But we have very good examples of it, and you will see it. So, look at her, how she is described. And I want to show you how Virgil puts Dido as a very passionate queen, very much filled with love and passion and sometimes folly, because it was believed that if you were too much in love, you were on the borderlines of folly, you know, that you lose your mind. And therefore, it's the total opposite of being a stoic, rational, wise, balanced, which is what the Romans wanted. So, so as they go out for hunting, you know, Dido and her group of soldiers and hunters and Aeneas with them, they are caught by a heavy storm. It starts raining. So Dido and Aeneas, arranged by the two goddesses, send them to a cave to take shelter. And while in the cave, of course, we have a commercial break. We don't know what happened. And when we come back to the story, there is gossip. So,
Professor,
line 120, yes.
so basically here the gods are keeping Aeneas away from his destiny. Unlike in a different story where
The goddesses,
Yeah,
but
the
not the
goddesses.
gods,
Goddesses.
because Zeus, Jupiter, wants him to go and start the city of Rome, and he will send him a message now. It's not for this love story that I saved you from Troy. Go up, wake up, be a man, go. So there is this kind of the gods. Okay, it is only Venus and Juno who are playing this game here. So. Look at page, I think 52, 120. Dido and the leader of the Trojans will both take refuge in the same cave. I shall be there, and if your settled will is with me in this, I shall join them in lasting marriage and make her his. This will be their wedding. So I will let them make love together. It's not going to be a wedding, but it's going to be a kind of a union. This was what Juno asked, and Venus did not refuse, but her nodded an assent. Meanwhile, as we go further down, she was wearing a Sidonian cloak and so forth. Then on the other side there were deer, and they had gathered into a herd down in the middle of the valley. Among was Ascanius, the young son. And then they all ran into this. When all this was happening, a great rumble of thunder began to stir in the sky. Down came the rain and the hail, and Tyrian huntsmen, these are the people of Dido, men of Troy, and Ascanius, all scattered. Dido and the leader of the Trojans took refuge together in the same cave. This is not Plato's cave or Aristotle's cave. This is another cave, okay? The sign was first given by Earth and by Juno. Fires flashed in the heavens, and they were witness to the marriage, so these two start making love. This day was the beginning of her death, the first cause of all her sufferings. From now on, Dido gave no thought to appearance or her good name, and no longer kept her love as a secret in her own heart, but called it marriage, using the word to cover her guilt. So, now that they have been together, we're going to see what's going to happen. You see, she's put here in a position where she's given priority to love and passion and so forth. Now, there was, yes?
Why is she doing it? She wanted.
Well, because this is not an official marriage, you know. And he tells her at the end, you know, the Romans were very, you know, marriage was an institution that was to be respected. Okay, there was a goddess, or a semi-goddess, called Rumor. Have you heard of Rumor? Rumor?
We know rumor.
What is Rumor?
It's when you hear of something and that's the and you're like,
Yeah?
you hear of something. Yes.
False news.
False.
Our fake news today are yeah, rumor, but also it is nice how rumor
It's not-
travels.
Yeah, it's not like a fact or it's not justified. It's just spreading.
Okay, it's part of gossip, huh?
Yeah.
And how do you do it, you know? You all, each one of you, you know, adds a bharat, you know, on it, you know, and then it snowballs. You start with somebody came, and then it goes on and on and on. In fact, Virgil is very much aware of this, and he says, rumor did not take long enough to go through the great cities of Libya. Libya was the name usually given to Africa. Okay, so we are in North Africa. And of all the ills there are, rumor is the swiftest. Rumor is the one that goes the fastest. It's amazing how, you know, how we forward news sometimes. We don't even check them. They turn out to be fake news. Or if there is some news that is, you know, spicy, it goes fast, right? We quickly send it. And of course, rumor is a she. Yeah. She thrives on movement and gathers strength as she goes. It's like a snowball. Yeah? The more she goes, okay. From small and timorous beginnings, she soon lifts herself up in the air, her feet still on the ground, but her head is hidden in the clouds. So look how she grows big, rumor. They say she is the last daughter of Mother Earth, who bore her in rage against the gods. Anyway, rumor is quick of foot, swift on the wings, a huge and horrible monster, and under every feather of her body there lies an eye that never sleeps. So she's listening all the time. A mouth and a tongue that are never silent, and an ear always pricking. So rumor is this fantastic woman with a, you know, dish antenna on her head, you know, and she's going around picking news. Now, the moment she heard that, or she saw them in the cave, this is her great occasion to start spreading the news. By night, she flies between earth and sky. She never lowers her eyelids in sweet sleep. By day, she keeps watch, perched on the top of gables on high towers. And that time, she was taking delight in, and then she discovered how Aeneas the Trojan had come to Carthage, and the lovely Dido had thought fit to take him as her husband, so-called husband, how they were now indulging themselves and keeping each other warm the whole winter. forgetting about their kingdoms and becoming the slaves of lust. This is the total opposite of what pietas is, or duty. Huh? Slaves of lust. Typical Lucretius, typical, sort of. When the foul goddess had spread this gossip all around on the lips of men, because I want to tell you something, that when Dido came as a queen to Carthage, there were many African princes and kings who were interested in marrying her, a little bit like the suitors of Penelope. But she kept on saying, I'm not going to marry because I'm true to my husband who died in Tyre, and so forth. But now, when this is spread, all the other African kings are getting upset and saying, why this Trojan and not us? Why is she choosing? So when the foul goddess spread the gossip all around the lips of men, she then steered her course to King Yarbas, who was one of the Africans, to set his mind alight and fuel his anger. Okay. So here we go, and so she went around telling them, this woman was wandering about our land, and we allowed her at a price to found her little city. We gave her a piece of our shore to plow and lay down the laws of the place, and she has spurned our offer of marriage and taken Aeneas into her kingdom as lord and master, and now the second Paris, Danny, like the guy who kidnapped Helen, with eunuchs in attendance and hair dripping with perfume and so forth. So they got now upset and start thinking of attacking Aeneas. Now, as this is going on, we have the gods who say, la, we should do something. And usually Mercury, who is Hermes, the Liban post of the messenger god, because he usually has little socks with wings, and he carries a bag with letters in them, Then he spoke to Mercury and told him, up with you, my son. Mercury is the messenger. Go to the Trojan leader who now lingers in Tyrian Carthage, again Carthage from the city of Tyre, without a thought for the cities granted him by the fates. He's not thinking of his destiny. Take these words of mine down to him through the swift winds and tell him that this is not the man promised to us by his mother, the loveliest of the goddesses. It was not for this that she twice rescued him from the swords of the Greeks. Why did we save him? We could have left him to die in Troy. She told us he would be the man to rule in Italy, pregnant with empire and clamoring for war. And look what is happening here. What does he have in mind? What does he hope to achieve dallying among a hostile people and sparing not a thought for the Lavinian fields and his descendants to be born in Ausonia, which is another name for Italy? He must sail, that is all there to say, let there be our message. So Jupiter now tells Mercury, you go tell Aeneas, this is not his destiny. He should not stay with this woman. He should leave her and go. Hard choice for a man, So Mercury goes, and I have to go back here again. So here we have his sword was studded with yellow and glowing with Mercury wasted no time and went to Aeneas, who was sleeping, and woke him up and told him, so now you are laying foundations for the city of Carthage. Bravo, you're building a new city of Carthage. You are building a splendid city to please your wife, and wife between brackets. Have you entirely forgotten your own kingdom and your own destiny? Have you forgotten what is your destiny? the ruler of the gods, Jupiter himself, by whose divine will the heavens and the earth revolve, sends me down from bright Olympus and bids me to give you these commands. What do you have in mind? What do you hope to achieve by idling your time in Libya, in Africa? What do you want to do here? If the glory of such a destiny does not fire your heart, spare a thought for your son Ascanius, for the hopes of this Julius, who is your heir. You owe him the land of Rome and the kingdom of Italy. Yes,
Who's Stephen?
it's his son,
Which one? The first one?
the one who's born now.
And he's not the father of the Italian.
No, it's from the other one that's going to become.
How is Julius?
Because when he goes to the underworld, his father tells him, from now on, your son Ascanius will have a new name called Julius. So
Silvius?
Silvius is the second one, born from Lavinia.
Ah.
Okay, he's going to be the Roman. Yeah,
So Ascanius is
from Prusa, yeah.
The one he escaped with to.
Yeah, so then he will be the descendant of Italy?
No, the new one will be the descendant of Italy, but this one also will continue.
His
Yeah.
name will become?
Yeah, he will be there but the other one will be the Italian pure race, because he will be from.
He will be Julius?
This will become Julius, yeah, Julius as such. Now, what we're interested in here is what is happening, this conflict between destiny and choice. And I don't know whether Aeneas, if he had a choice, he would have stayed with Dido. You know, they are happy, they're in love, they're sitting, there's no war, there's no fighting, there's no challenge, there's peace. But when the God tells him this is not your destiny or your fate, so what does he do? So he starts to muster the men on the shore with their equipment at the ready and keep secret the reason for the change of plan. He starts telling his men to prepare the ships to run away at night. In the meantime, since the good queen knew nothing, and the last thing she expected was the shattering of such a great love, he himself would try to make approaches to her and find the kindest time to speak and the best way to handle the matter. One of the most difficult things is to break up with a woman, huh? So how would you do? How are you going to tell her that, you know, what happened was a mistake, sorry, I have to go, and so forth? But look at Virgil. But the queen, who can deceive a lover? She had in advance this feeling that something was not right. Afraid where there was nothing to fear, she was the first to catch wind of their plans to leave. And while she was already in a frenzy, that same wicked rumor brought word that the Trojans were fitting out their fleet, preparing to sail away. Driven to distraction and burning with passion, this is where Virgil wants to show us that she's not a good, dutiful woman, burning with passion, she raged and raved the whole city like a bacchant. Now, what are the bacchant? The bacchant are women who follow Bacchus, the god of wine, and of course, if they drink too much wine, they become, crazy and go around dancing. So the bacchantes were people who were these women, and like them, she's going around like a hysteric woman dancing. And then she confronts him. At last, she went to Aeneas, and before he could speak, she cried, "You traitor! Did you imagine you could do this and keep it secret? Do you think you could slip away from this land of mine and say nothing? Does our love have no claim on you? Or the pledge your right hand once gave me, or the promise? Or the prospect of Dido dying a cruel death? Why must you move your fleet in these winter storms and rush across the high seas? You are heartless. You have no emotions. Even if it were not other people's fields and some home unknown you were going to, if all Troy were still standing, would any fleet set sail even for Troy in such stormy seas? Is it me you are running away from? I beg you by these tears, of course tears are very helpful, by the pledge you gave me with your own right hand, I have nothing else left me now in my misery. I beg you, by our union, by the marriage we have begun, there wasn't a total marriage, yeah? I implore you, if it is not too late for prayers, give up this plan of yours. In other words, choose your heart and not your mind, yeah. I am hated because of you by the peoples of Libya and the Numidian kings, the African kings. My own Tyrians are against me. Because of you, I have lost all conscience, all concept of duty, and self-respect, and have thrown away the good name I once had, my only hope of reaching the stars. My guest is leaving me to my fate, and I shall die. Guest is the only name I can now give the man who used to be my husband. Now, what am I waiting for, and so forth. She had just finished speaking. Oh, if only you had given me a child, she says, before you abandoned me. If there was a little Aeneas to play in my palace, in spite of everything, his face would remind me of yours, all the emotions.
So she wasn't pregnant?
No. This is not the one who's going to have any children of Aeneas. She had finished speaking, remembering the warnings of Jupiter. Aeneas did not move his eyes and struggled to fight down the anguish in his heart. Typical, stoic, dutiful Roman. Huh? He's not letting his emotions at all gather there. At last he spoke these words. I know, O Queen, you can list a multitude of kindnesses you have done me. I shall never deny them, and never be sorry to remember Dido, while I remember myself, while my spirit still governs this body. Much could be said. I shall only say a little. It was never my intention to be deceitful or run away without your knowing, and do not pretend that it was. Nor have I ever offered you marriage or entered into that contract with you. We never signed the document, you know. Now, there comes his part.
So they did not have this conversation behind her breath?
Okay, he will remind her, but then he doesn't know that she's going to kill herself because he leaves her before. If the fates were leaving me free to live my own life, if destiny allowed me to live my own life and settle all my cares according to my own wishes, my first concern would be to tend the city of Troy, so not even you. If I had a choice to be free, I would go back to Troy and try to build it up. A lofty palace of Priam would still be standing, and with my own hands, I would now build the city of. But Apollo has commanded me to claim the great land of Italy, and Italy is the word on our lost caste and his Lycian oracle. That is now my love and my homeland. So now I should fall in love not with Athens like Pericles, but I should fall in love with Italy. You are a Phoenician from Asia, and you care for Carthage and love the very sight of the city in Libya. What objection can there be to the Trojans settling in the land of Ausonia? Ausonia is another name for Italy, the future. How can it be a sin if we also look for distant kingdoms? This is a bit, expansionist and so forth. Every night when the earth is covered in mist and darkness, every time the burning stars rise in the sky, I see in my dreams the troubled spirit of my father Anchises coming to me with warnings, and I am afraid. I see my son Ascanius and think of the wrong I'm doing him, cheating him of his kingdom in Hesperia, again Italy, and the lands the fates have decreed for him. And now even the messenger of the gods has come down. So I have, do not go on causing distress to yourself, and it is not by my own will that I search for Italy. So now the choice is what? To choose Italy or to choose Dido? Okay, it's his duty. And if you look at the next time you have the name of Aeneas, notice the adjective that, she goes on, she says, you are a traitor, you are not the son of a goddess, it was the Caucasus that fathered you, you were, of course there are all the heaps of things she had he any pity for the woman who loves him? Where can I begin? Now, after all this, can mighty Juno and father of all, is there nothing we can trust in life? He was thrown helpless on the shores, and he left. And that is where afterwards she tells her maid to bring and to prepare a funeral pyre. A funeral pyre is the way these Greeks and Romans at that time used to bury, like a couch full of bed, and then you burn it all, and then she kills herself. And the next time he sees her, it's when he saw her in the underworld, when he says, is it true what I heard, that you have killed yourself? I just want to go, she spoke and spoke no more, and then we go here and see. While these words of grief were bursting from Dido's heart, Aeneas was now resolved to leave and was taking his rest on the high stern of his ship. There as he slept, and he went on, and then, son of the goddess, how can you lie there sleeping at a time like this? Do not see your danger of this moment. Have you lost your wits? Having decided, and then, so no more delay. Women are unstable creatures, always changing. Because he's afraid that this is the Mercury. Women are unstable. Now she might not do something, but after a while, if you stay more, she might bring her army and kill you. So please go ahead. When he had spoken, he melted into the blackness of night, and Aeneas was immediately awake. Wake up and sit to your benches. Let out the sails, and quickly a god has sent down, so we have to go. And Aeneas immediately leaves. And if you notice that the next time his name is mentioned, we will find that he's referred to as true, dutiful, duty-bound Aeneas. The choice between love and duty, duty won, love lost. So here, Dido is described like an Epicurean or a Lucretius type of a character who wants love, who wants passion, and he is described as a pure person who wants his Roman duty, his pietas, and doing. And in this conflict, in any of these books, duty always wins. If you notice this theme, it is taken over in many of the French, if you read anything like Corneille or Racine or Shakespeare or any of these, it's always duty that has to win. When you have a choice between, and if you take this back to Plato, it is the reason dominating the appetites and the emotions. Reason dominates. And sometimes in modern times, they say our main problems are now that we have lost our emotions. We have lost our humanitas, our humanity, because we always think rationally and we stop thinking in it. Okay, why did we want to really focus on this? Because this book 4 is basically the reason, this is not the Cyclops of Odysseus, but this is where the transition takes place from the Trojan going into the next stage and going into, there's a curse that she puts on him as well. And the curse is that with these words, she raised her hand, cut the hair, and as she cut, all warmth went out of Dido's body, and her life passed into the winds. She killed herself, and now, where does Virgil get this idea? Is interesting that some have suggested that the story of Antony and Cleopatra must have been an inspiration, because Cleopatra was an Egyptian Oriental queen. Mark Antony was the Roman general. They fell in love with each other, and everybody was telling Mark Antony that you should leave her. And when he left her, she killed herself, and then he killed himself. So these Oriental queens, you know, who are full of passion, whereas our Romans are all very rational. Yeah.
Dido put a curse on Aeneas.
Yeah, she tells him somewhere in here that may there never be peace between your nation and mine, which is predicting the wars of Hannibal, which already had taken place when Virgil was writing. So he's trying to make history. Why did Hannibal attack the Romans? Because Dido was the ancestor of these Phoenicians. What we are interested in, of course, is not the story, because the story is the story, but we are interested in this role of fates. Fates or fatum or destiny is very strong in the story of Virgil. And one wonders whether it is stronger than in the Odyssey. Because in the Odyssey, we saw at the beginning that the gods said that what is happening is due to the recklessness of humans. But here it seems that there isn't much choice for the humans, unless to pick the right course of what the gods. So the gods have fated or decided something for you. If you go along with the gods, you're okay. You're happy. But if you go against it, which is what Oedipus's mother did and Oedipus did, then you have a problem in the Greek culture. So the fates with a capital F is your destiny. You accept it, you suffer, you forget your emotions, you're a good Roman character. You are against it, and it is described as passion, folly, anger, unreliable. Even the guy who is going to fight Aeneas in Italy, he is described as somebody who has boiling waters in him. He's so angry and so full of this. So this last text of our course is basically almost another epic of the Roman civilization. It tells us, for the Romans, how Rome came to be into existence, and Rome is nothing but the continuation of the Trojans. And therefore, for the Romans, they had a great, glorious past, and they have a glorious present and a glorious future, to go on. So it gives them a sense of identity, a sense of continuity. So the Odyssey is now continuing into the Aeneid. And if we can find links between them, that would be interesting. There's a lot of similarities. We're not reading the entire book, but Virgil actually has put the Iliad and the Odyssey in front of his table, and he started, it's not plagiarism, it's inspiration, it's borrowing, and it is, re-putting them in a different style. So what we will do is on Tuesday we will go to the museum. So we will meet in the AUB Museum. And on Thursday, which is our last class, we will have a general revision. Okay? So concentrate on the book of Death that is for Lucretius. Read a little bit on the senses, which is part of the book 4. But in fact, these are the ones we will be focusing on. Okay? And then we'll have a general discussion on next Thursday, which will be our last class. So bring up all the ideas you have, and let's discuss some of the themes that we can find out. As I will say another time now to remind you that the final exam is in 2 parts. One part is like a third quiz on the last material, which includes Plato, Aristotle, Lucretius, Virgil. There will be direct questions on this, like a third quiz. The second part of the exam, I will give you 2 questions with 2 different themes, and I will tell you, pick any text you've read this semester and discuss, or pick 3 authors, or 3 texts, or 3 heroes, and discuss this theme. The only problem is that don't say, go to question 1 for my answers of question 2. In other words, don't be repetitive in your answer. If you pick the same book, try to pick a different topic, rather than, if you pick Plato, for instance, or Aristotle, don't say the same things in both. So the best thing to do is to avoid sometimes repetitive, because the answer is limited, and so before you start answering, pick your choices, because even in the question on the last material, there are choices, there are options. They're not, okay, and then from the 30th till the 9th, I'm available anytime. If you want to see me, you can contact me on the group. You can send me an email. If you want to have a meeting, we can have even a Zoom meeting. So it's up to you for anything that you need. Okay? Did I get all the presentations delivered? Are we done here? Because I have still some that haven't. Okay.